And then all of a sudden, now you're working with some of the biggest names in the world.
We do a lot of things that don't make sense, that don't scale.
Are you writing the scripts for your clients?
I think people overcomplicate content, what's going to do well and what's not going to do well.
I'm just trying to figure out how you went from nothing.
That video crushed so hard because...
My guest today is the YouTube strategist for some of the largest, most well-known authors and thought leaders on the entire planet. I'm talking Malcolm Gladwell, Jesse Itzler, Daniel H. Pink, and Scott Galloway. His name is Jimmy Johnson, and he is the co-founder of Say Como Say, an agency that helps thought leaders and authors grow their following on Instagram and YouTube. My interview with him talks about what it's like to strategize for a whole variety of YouTube education channels. It's a good one, so stick around. The unique, interesting thing about you and your story with Say is you kind of burst onto the scene and then you took over the entire book industry with one fell swoop. You didn't dilly-dally with like middle of the pack self-published authors. Like you went right to Gladwell. What did that first email look like to him or to his team? And how did you eventually land him?
Man, I mean, it's a lot of credit to my business partner. Just shot him in a cold email. And I think one very easy and obvious move for us was creating free samples for anyone we reached out to. And for Malcolm, that's one thing we did and pushed them over the edge to post those videos before we even started working with them. And I think that is what really separated us from other people who may have reached out. And honestly, when you look at those who are as big as Malcolm, I think there's an intimidation factor of like, oh, I can't get Malcolm. And that's just not true. It's simply not true. There's an advantage to your inexperience that I don't think a lot of people recognize till they're older. We have an advantage of being the young kids on the block. We grew up with social media. We know what we're talking about, and slowly having the opportunity to work with these amazing authors, speakers, and you know, just any client we've worked with.
You had a few clients before Malcolm Gladwell. Was that part of the conversation as well? Like, hey, look who we've worked with in the past. You can trust us because these people trust us?
Definitely. That adds to it 100%. You know,
who were you working with at that time?
Jesse.
I mean, Jesse's a huge client in himself. He's a thought leader that is adored by millions of people, has run multiple businesses, is married to a billionaire. I'm just trying to figure out how you went from nothing. Like you decided to start this agency with Andrew, your co-founder, and then all of a sudden now you're working with some of the biggest names in the world.
Yeah, I think it started with the decision. You know, I got a call from Andrew to start this agency, and we were both doing different things in content. Kind of similar worlds, but different. I was a creator and he was kind of a manager and a mastermind behind a lot of different pages. We both didn't feel super fulfilled in the work we were doing. It didn't feel like we were moving the needle in the lives of those who are consuming it, which sounds cheesy and corny, but it's true. Like it's freaking exhausting. Can I cuss? It's freaking exhausting making content that's brain rot, that doesn't have a lot of value to it all the time. Like it gets old. The pattern gets old, but when you see DMs, comments of like actual change being made, that is what continues to fuel not only like you wanting to post content, but you wanting to innovate.
Did it take some convincing in the fact that YouTube or social media was worth considering in the first place? Like, how do you tell someone who doesn't realize how incredible and how lucrative YouTube is? How do you convince them, first of all, that it's actually what it is? And then secondly, to pay you money to be the one that runs the whole thing for them?
First off, verbally convincing, it does not work. It's a waste of time. That is the complete waste of time. Like, I'm a huge fan of Gary Vaynerchuk, and I've heard him say this 1,000 times. Like, he is not in the game of convincing. He is not. You know, people are going to come around. Like, the fact that YouTube is the game it's literally a fact. It's a universal fact. It's a truth, I believe, and I will never, ever lose that conviction. But I'm not going to convince anybody of that because that conviction took me 10 plus years to build. I give so many flowers to those who like actually are taking the risk on YouTube, but also those that question it, because there is a lot that could go wrong putting your brand on YouTube, especially when you work with the people that we work with who are, they've gotten their notoriety in more traditional media. They've gotten it, you know, Daniel Pink, he was the vice president speechwriter. Al
That's
Gore
crazy.
in the 90s.
Yeah.
And like, we take a lot of responsibility and the pressure of making sure what we're putting out there and what we're getting hired to do is not only does well, but puts them in a good light.
What is it like logistically from a say perspective to have a bunch of clients? Let's say, I mean, you've got, I don't know, actually don't know how many clients you've got at the moment, but let's say you were to onboard another client. How do you fit them into your whole cycle? Do you bring more team members on? Do you squeeze them in and then all of a sudden you're sleeping 1 hour less every single night? What does it look like?
I think it starts with the latter. I think it starts with the latter of like, at the end of the day, like we pour so much into everyone we work with and we don't have that many clients. You know, if we wanted to scale this business to be like just a machine that poops out a ton of content for anyone who's interested in working with us, like first off, I don't know if that's the best business model, but second of all, like we could do that and we don't do that. We're so hands-on in everyone we work with. Like, you know, when we onboard 1 or 2 new clients, like we lose an extra hour of sleep a night for a month until we figure out really what resources need to go into it long term, because we need to be at the pulse of what they want to share. What's the best way to share it? I think that's the luxury of like where we are as a company right now too, is our priorities are solely on it.
What's the offer or the promise that you make to the clients that you take on board? Is it for a certain duration of time? Is it for a certain duration of a number of views that you offer? Like, what's the standard say package look like?
The answer is there's none. There's no standard. There's no standard say package. It really there's not. We do a lot of things that don't make sense, that don't scale. And one thing that definitely doesn't scale is customizing the strategy. You know, everyone has different problems, you know? Like we have some clients that literally just want to sell their course. You know, we have one client who just wants to sell their book. And those are, although they might sound similar and they might look similar even on social, like they are completely different. What platforms we put them on are completely different. Just at the level with the people we're working at, like there are more problems that we need to solve and there's more complexity to it.
Okay, so all of your clients have different goals and different expectations of what you provide to them, but surely there's some similarities between all of them and the tactics that you deploy to like get views or get subscribers or convert people. What are some of the lessons in that world there?
I would say number one, no matter where you're posting and no matter what type of content you're creating, the first thing you want to do is establish like why you're uniquely positioned to give that advice. Andrew always says it. My business partner always says it. Like, who do you want to listen to for advice on career advice? You know, a 19-year-old life coach or Obama? You know, it's like,
wait, is Obama a client of yours?
No, but it's an astronomical difference, right? In that answer. And, you know, Obama's well known, so his credibility is well known, but there's a lot of people that I respect at the level of Obama that aren't well known and go under the radar, and their work isn't on NBC and CNN and Fox every night. And so their credibility is less well known, and we're the delta, not to just make them famous, but like get them well known enough in the right way so that anything else that they want to share carries more weight to it. And so that's number one. And I also say, you know, this is something that I've realized recently. We want more optionality of who we're working with. And, you know, there's so much that comes with putting yourself out there and building a personal brand. I'm looking to build my personal brand the way that our clients are building their personal brand. But Caleb Ralston has a really great feel and idea of like one of the X factors that makes someone pop on social media and just as a brand in general. And it's like, it's this idea of like, what is a contrarian view that you have that others don't? What makes your take unique? What makes something a little bit more edgy? And it's not coming up with random things that are like controversial and saying them just to get clicks. But in your niche, like what is something maybe a little bit unique about your take that gives you some edge, that makes you stand out, and that you have conviction in? And I think sharing that and amplifying that as much as possible is how you're going to build your tribe.
Are you writing the scripts for your clients, or are you writing them with them, or are you riffing? Like, what is the balance look like?
It really depends. Like there's some prompts that we can hand off and it really strikes a chord with who we're working with and they want to run with it. And there's also often so much benefit to AI right now. Specifically, I think one of the advantages we have as an agency is that all of our clients have so much work out there that's public. And so not only are we able to download all that and kind of create GPTs that are duplicates of our clients to be working with on ideas, like our clients, the most valuable thing is their time. You know, they're at the stage in their career where they have families, they have priorities. Social media isn't what their life's built off of, right? And so we have so many questions to ask. We have so many ideas to kind of work with. Being able to work with their past media and writing to concept and write what we eventually want to film and produce is so helpful. And so we lean on that a lot for sure. For sure.
You started working with Dan Pink. He basically had a very, very small following on YouTube. He was putting out content. It wasn't getting the views that he deserved. You intervened, and now he's at 65,000 subscribers over the course of maybe 4 or 5 months. He's pulling 500,000 view videos. Talk to me about that time that you kind of stepped in and how you brought him, like the tactics you used to grow him so quickly and effectively.
After posting a lot of archival stuff just to get the page up and running again and getting some excitement around it, and some activity on the page, what really helped take his YouTube account off was understanding what does well on YouTube and what doesn't do well on YouTube. It's a packaging platform, and we can create the best video with some of the best insights from Dan. And if it's not packaged in a way that someone wants to click on it, no one's going to watch. And so once we started to, use tools that like 1 of 10 to analyze in all these multiplier Google Chrome extensions to analyze YouTube pages and other people in Dan's niche, which was also huge looking at competitors, we were able to see what's working for them and apply some of those video ideas, remix some of the titles and thumbnails to fit the strategy for Dan. There's no one like Dan, but there are people that are in similar niches and talk about similar subjects that we could package a video in the same way if it's done well. And then the actual contents of the video are going to be completely different because Dan's completely different. His perspective is different. And I think one of the advantages we have with someone like him is like we're leaning into his credibility a ton. The biggest video we have on his page is 21 life-changing books summarized in X amount of minutes, 18 minutes. That video crushed so hard because we established his credibility from the jump. If I were to make that video, what makes me uniquely positioned for you to listen after you see that title? If in the intro, I just start summarizing books, like why is it life-changing? He's read all of these books. He's also an author of 7 books. And he starts by saying, I've read more books than probably all of you. I'm 61. and he starts by sharing there's 4,000 books that are written a year and all this stuff. How are you possibly, in the average person reads 4 books a year. How are you possibly going to read all these books? I'm going to share with you the 21 most life-changing books I've ever read and summarize them for you right now. I think people overcomplicate content and what's going to do well and what's not going to do well. That is a freaking great idea. That's a great idea. Just plain and simple. Like Mr. Beast talks a lot about how do you grow a YouTube channel? Make videos people want to watch. Okay. At first you might be thinking, yeah, duh, Mr. Beast. But seriously, like if you're in a niche that is talking about like, you're trying to grow your like water gun company. Okay. And you want to make videos about like the engineering of your water gun. It's like, no, what do people actually want to watch? Okay. Like the psychology of a human, they might want to watch 2 people battling with 2 different water guns and which one works better. And so you have some type of like, you create a storyline with that and you ultimately end up selling more water guns.
One thing that you've told me in the past that you've done with Jesse is you've posted the videos to his Instagram following, which I think is like 10 times larger than his YouTube following. You've posted it on a broadcast channel before releasing the video. What kind of impact has that had on the video?
Yeah, I mean, that's a super interesting and small case study that I really do think helped grow Jesse's account, which was he has a following of 1.2 million followers on Instagram and 2.2 million followers across all his platforms. And so what we had done was, number one, reward his biggest fans by delivering in the unlisted YouTube video that's going to go up a few days later. Like that makes you feel special. Okay. Regardless of like, you can't even quantify the trust you're building with your audience when you do that. You can't quantify it. Like you really can't. It's special. If I were to see that come to me from my favorite YouTubers, and I felt like I was getting an exclusive look and an early look, I would probably click on it. And we've done it too many times, I think now, to where like it's worn off. But what happens is when you do that, you get those initial fans, you get those initial viewers. One, they're your biggest fans. They're going to watch the whole video. So you're getting the initial data as way longer watch time than probably any other viewer in the world, because they're your biggest fans already. So then when you publish the video, and I honestly, like, a YouTube exec might dispute me on this strategy. I don't, but this is just my, like, really what I believe. When you publish that video, it starts from published 0 minutes ago, and you already have 1,500 views or 3,000 views or 10,000 views, however many people you funneled in while it was unlisted. And the analytics are insane. The watch time is way higher than average. You're starting with a number of views. If I'm browsing, searching for a good video, there's so much decision making that happens just looking at how many views a video has.
Sure.
Subconsciously, like, I'm going to rank the best video to watch off of if other people loved it and if other people are watching it. And so if you're giving yourself a little bit of the head start of credibility and views, and then you're giving yourself you're giving YouTube enough data to work off of for like, oh wow, also this is the type of person that likes to watch this video. You're giving YouTube a bunch of data of the kind of person who already loves you when you do the unlisted strategy. It creates a flywheel, and if the video is good enough, I think it starts to take off. And we've seen that to be true, by the way. That's why you should build a newsletter and launch it unlisted video 3 days before it goes public. You should build a broadcast channel on Instagram. You should build an audience everywhere else. And like, that's why it's important not to just be on YouTube, not to just be on Instagram, but everywhere. If you only have so many resources, maybe you should start to make a priority list of like what content goes up where, and maybe just like X out Twitter and X out Threads and X out Snapchat, because it may be not worth your time because you don't have the time and resources, but there's benefit to all these other platforms for YouTube.
YouTube recently announced that collab posting is a thing, kind of like what you're able to do on Instagram. You've got a handful of clients that are all kind of in the same world, but different from each other. Are you thinking about collab posting in any unique kind of way right now?
Definitely. Just collaboration in general. All right. Across any platform, across any like art form. You look at like t-shirt designers and, painters and them collaborating in work. It blows up both businesses and both personalities' work a ton. You look at the cross promotion of like Beyonce and her traditional pop music and country music, and it blows up. In the education space on YouTube, it's just, you do not see that a lot. You see it with entertainers, Mr. Beast and Speed. You see it with Logan Paul and Jake Paul but education, you don't see it that much. You only see it with the people who have been on YouTube for a long time and understand the game. Marcus Brownlee, and other creators who are also reviewing tech stuff. I don't think you see it with a lot of like authors that are kind of putting out their own education content. I just don't think that it's utilized enough. And now that there's this like collab setting and this opportunity and this feature on YouTube where you could literally collaborate channels, I think that's going to be one of the most underrated plays of 2026. And then I think what really is going to make the difference is like, what type of ideas can you strategize from that? And the first place you should look is not from like ground zero. You have all these other examples of creators collaborating in other niches. If Dan Pink, who's a writer and wants to make a video about motivation, he could collaborate in collab channel with maybe one of the top psychologists in that field from Harvard, who's also trying to grow his personal brand. There's so much Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye the Science Guy could collaborate on. And the fact that you can
what's interesting? So all these books that I've read behind me here, I think a huge important reason for why I've read that book and not any other kind of book is you flip it over on the back, especially for educational books, they've got 5 or 6 other authors who have vouched for that book. And when I'm looking to read something new, I'm looking to see who has vouched for that I know and recognize. And so it's interesting to see that is such a thing in the book writing world. But to your point, like collaborating on YouTube in the education niche is not that popular. So hopefully you guys are the ones to kind of kickstart that trend because it feels like there's a good opportunity.
The only example I see consistently enough is like going on podcasts. Like if you were to go on Diary of the CEO,
that's true. Yeah.
Steven is giving you that like rite of passage, that stamp of approval for his entire audience. And so that's a form of collaboration. But the question becomes, are those podcast channels going to start collaborating with the channels of the guests?
I have seen it a little bit. Like John Ushai recently put out a video with the Styx guys, and they did a collab. But John Ushai is very YouTube based. So you're asking, is Diary of a CEO going to put out a video and tag Alex Hermosi and then, amplify the view potential for that video?
I see it all the time in the short form content space. Like, it's way more exciting for a podcast, for Chris Williamson's podcast to collaborate on Instagram with Hermosi than to collaborate with a guest who is very qualified to be on that podcast, but doesn't have a great social presence. That's just the leverage of having a great audience, is like Chris wants some of Hermosi's audience and vice versa. And so it's like, it's mutually beneficial. If Diary of a CEO has a psychologist out of Stanford who doesn't have a YouTube channel or has a YouTube channel with 30 subscribers, why in the world would they do that? They're putting their audience in a position to where they might start browsing onto that channel and end up empty-handed, and now they're leaving with like maybe a sour taste in their mouth rather than going back into the wormhole of Diary of a CEO.
Also, a good pitch to work with you if you're a thought leader or an educator that doesn't have a social media following that wants one. It's advantageous to work with Say, because eventually when you do get on Diary of a CEO, they're going to want to collab with you. Super. No, it's a great point. What is your stance on where YouTube's going to be in the next couple of years? What do you expect?
I think YouTube's probably in the most interesting spot they've ever been in because of the threats to YouTube. And the two threats to YouTube right now are Spotify and a potential AI only long form platform, similar to what OpenAI is doing with Sora 2. You look at what Sora is doing, and it is taking so much market share out of Instagram Reels and TikTok right now. So much.
Really?
So
are you scrolling on Sora all the time?
No, that's how I know, is because the content from Sora is getting downloaded and reposted onto Instagram Reels right now. And it's out competing content on Instagram Reels.
But is that trendy? Like, is that a trend right now, or is that something that's going to stick around for a long time?
It doesn't matter. There's market share being taken, and that is going to happen with YouTube. And I can't predict if that's going to stick around. And by the way, I feel very bullish it will. I saw a video of, Will Smith doing something like a promo for some silly product, and I didn't even realize, because they took the watermark of Sora off. I didn't even realize it was Sora.
No kidding.
And I'm someone I watch videos all day. Like I'm someone who would know, And so in a year, Sora is going to be way more insane. And one thing that they're doing that's super smart is you have to get invited to be a creator right now on Sora. So they're getting people who are very good at what they do. And I think YouTube is 100% going to have some type of competitor to themselves that is just AI related. And I don't know if it's going to be like a tab on YouTube that is like YouTube AI, or, I don't think they'll call it AI, but, or they're going to have a separate platform, or they're going to buy the company that wants to compete with them. But that is going to change the game, honestly, because just think about creators and how much flack they have right now. Burnout. How many creators have had burnout, Devin, on YouTube? People were dying for David Dobrik's content, and then he just stopped posting. He was getting 19 million views of video. Why was he getting 19 million views of video? Because people were addicted to the humor. People were addicted to his style. They were addicted to him. They felt like they were his friend. It was like a crazy parasocial relationship. I don't think people are going to care that they're watching AI content if they're laughing. Like, the market decides, your laughter decides. So like in the comedy niche, right? Okay. In the education niche, in the news niche, if you wanted to get the fastest news from a trusted source, in New York Times has not the New York Times, the most, trustworthy news source. They have a lot of opinion sections, whatever. But in the New York Times has their own AI avatar that's just pooping out content, and they're citing everything in their, anytime a piece of news comes out, they have an AI avatar post news with amazing B-roll, and you could get that way faster at 6 p.m. than waiting till 9 a.m. Why do you think Instagram's taking over? I mean, seriously, like the fact that if news happens of a big trade between LeBron James and Kevin Durant on a Saturday, you have to wait for Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee's take on Monday morning to hear what they're going to say about it is crazy to me. So like, the personal brands that are going to crush are the AI avatars. And so what are you going to do? Are those avatars competing on the same playing ground as all the human creators? I don't think, as a very liberal news outlet that cares about its creators and cares about the well-being of its creators, YouTube's going to let that slide. I think there's going to have to be a separate platform. And I honestly think that they're going to either buy a separate platform or they're going to lose in that department to whatever platform that is.
Time will tell. But it sounds like you're very bullish on the future of AI generated content.
100%. 100%. I enjoy it. You enjoy some of it. Like,
Yeah.
I think people just like have a distaste to it because it's new, but like, newsflash, it's coming. And I won't get into it too much, but that's why I'm bullish on what we're building with Say and the avatars we're putting together. There's no better agency that knows how to build a personal brand from rock bottom that doesn't change when it comes to AI avatars.
Okay, Jimmy, I have one last question for you. Who is a creator that's on your radar right now that you're really impressed with?
I just got chills thinking of saying his name right now because I'm so bullish on him, is Colt Kerwin. I've talked to you about this guy before. I'm like obsessed with the way this guy creates. I think a lot of people today, cause there's like this FOMO of being first to share something or, you know, getting a lot of content out, but the creative, this extra juice that you can't really put your finger on, that like the taste, the touch that goes into it, you can't quantify what that does. But what it does is it builds trust and it builds a unique look that no one can compare themselves to you. And Colt Kerwin, although he doesn't get out as many videos on YouTube, and just so everyone gets a sense, he's not an educational YouTuber. He's an entertainer and makes like, you know, videos I'd put in the likelihood or put in the same room as like Casey Neistat's, kind of where you don't know what you're going to get. And he's a videographer and a photographer. He makes, this is what Casey did really well, Casey Neistat. He makes videos that would be traditionally boring, interesting, just because of the creative. And I see that on short form content. I see that on YouTube. The ones that go the extra mile to make a transition when you're leaving your apartment to hit the street to go pick up your camera. And you add an extra layer of creativity of like ease to watch. I don't want to just watch some ugly video. I'd rather watch a pretty video of that getting shared to me. And it has all to do with how much care that creator puts into it in their taste. That is a massive opportunity for educational YouTubers who are making content like Dan Pink. If Dan had more time, I'd want to make like all these like, you know, cute, sexy, creative twists on his videos. The time and the resources that requires may not be the best bang for his or our buck right now. But if you're a creator and you want to stand out, like that's definitely one thing you should consider.
Cool, Jimmy. Well, thank you for being a guest on the show. People can see your work by looking and subscribing to Dan Pink, Jesse Itzler, Scott Galloway, Malcolm Gladwell, a whole bunch of different educators. And they can also visit your website, which is
saycomosay.com. From the Italian phrase, say como sei, which means you are as you are. One of our goals is to not change who our clients are, just amplify their message in the best way possible.
Thank you very much for coming on the show, and we'll talk to you again.
Thanks for having me, Devin.
That's it for today's episode. Thank you for watching or listening. If you're watching on YouTube, please consider subscribing so you can stick around for when the next episode drops. And if you're listening on one of the audio platforms, please leave us a review and a rating. It really helps us grow the show and book more awesome guests. See you in the next one.